Our first story comes from Elias, a man who, for most of his life, found profound peace in the embrace of ancient forests. He was a seasoned solo hiker, a true woodsman who knew the rhythm of the trees and the whispers of the wind. His preferred sanctuary was Blackwood Forest, a sprawling expanse of ancient oaks and towering pines, notorious for its age and density. It was late October, the air crisp and sharp, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a smell Elias cherished. The forest floor was a tapestry of amber and russet, crunching satisfyingly under his boots as he ventured deeper, leaving the last vestiges of the hiking trail far behind. That day, however, was different. The usual symphony of the forest, the chirping of birds, the rustle of small creatures, the distant caw of a crow, was eerily absent. A silence, unnatural and heavy, pressed in on him. It wasn't the peaceful quiet he sought. It was a watchful, expectant stillness that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Every fiber of his being screamed that something was amiss. He felt it in the prickle on his neck, the subtle shift in the air, the unmistakable sensation of being observed, even though he could see nothing but endless trees. He tried to shake off the unease, attributing it to an overactive imagination or perhaps the solitude amplifying his senses. But then it began. Faint, indistinguishable voices. They weren't from the wind. These were too distinct, too numerous. They sounded like human voices, but distorted, just beyond the grasp of comprehension, like a conversation happening in a language he almost knew, just out of reach. What truly unnerved him was that they seemed to move with him, always just behind him, always just to his sides. He would pause, straining his ears, and they would quiet, only to resume the moment he took another step. He spun around several times, scanning the dense undergrowth, but saw nothing but the unchanging pattern of trees and shadows. His heart began to pound a frantic rhythm against his ribs. The quiet was now a void, amplifying the phantom sounds. He swore he saw shadows shifting in his peripheral vision, movements that vanished the instant he tried to focus on them. It was as if the forest itself was playing a cruel trick on his mind, a psychological torment designed to unravel him. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, no longer faint murmurs but a cacophony of hushed, almost angry tones converging on him. They sounded frustrated, perhaps even malevolent. He started checking behind him constantly, his grip tightening on his hiking poles, every muscle tensed. Then, through a break in the canopy, between two ancient gnarled oaks whose branches seemed to weep with age, he saw it, a tall, dark figure. It stood unnaturally still, too rigid for a human, too statuesque for an animal. It was too far to make out any definitive details, but its presence alone radiated an oppressive chill. Its form seemed to absorb the light around it, making it appear as a void against the backdrop of the autumnal woods. It didn't move, didn't twitch. It simply stood, watching him. The absolute stillness of it was more terrifying than any sudden movement could have been. Elias felt an ancient, malevolent intelligence fixated solely on him. Panic, raw and visceral, seized him. All thought of rational explanation evaporated. His only instinct was to flee. He ran, scrambling through the undergrowth, ignoring the branches that lashed at his face and clothes. The whispers, now a furious chorus, seemed to chase him, echoing the frantic beat of his own feet. He didn't dare look back, but he could feel the figure's unblinking gaze burning into his back, a sensation that drove him harder, pushing his exhausted body to its limits. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs ached with fiery protest, until he burst out of the tree line and onto the gravel access road, collapsing in a gasping heap. He eventually dragged himself to his car, fumbling with the keys, his hands shaking so violently he could barely insert them into the ignition. He started the engine, threw the car into reverse, and sped away, not daring to glance in his rearview mirror until the forest was a distant, dark smudge against the horizon. Years later, Elias still avoids deep forests. The solitude he once cherished is now a source of dread. He still hears whispers in the wind, in the quiet of his own home, faint echoes of that terrifying encounter. He questions what he saw, what truly haunted him that day, but the terror was too real, too profound to dismiss as mere imagination. The woods, for Elias, are no longer a sanctuary, but a lurking nightmare. Our second story comes from Sarah, an artist who sought inspiration in the secluded beauty of nature. She chose Whisperwind Lake, a remote, mirror-smooth body of water nestled deep within an untouched wilderness, known for its pristine beauty and its sudden, thick fogs. It was mid-August, the air warm and humid, and Sarah had set up her campsite by the shore, eager to capture the lake's serene essence on canvas. She spent her days sketching, her nights listening to the gentle lapping of water against the shore, a perfect escape from the city's chaos. One afternoon, without warning, a dense pea soup fog rolled in, swallowing the landscape whole. It was so thick it reduced visibility to mere feet, an impenetrable shroud that disoriented her instantly. She had ventured a short distance from her campsite to collect some wildflowers for her sketches, and now the path she thought she knew intimately had vanished. Panic began to set in as the sun dipped lower and the light grew dim, turning the fog into an even more oppressive presence. Stumbling blindly through the swirling mist, desperately trying to retrace her steps, she unexpectedly stumbled upon something solid. It was an old, dilapidated cabin, one she had never seen on any map of the area. It looked ancient, forgotten, its timbers gray with age and coated in moss. Windows were boarded up, but on one side, through a gap in the rotting wood, she saw a faint, flickering light. A morbid curiosity, stronger than her fear, drew her closer. As she approached, the flickering light seemed to pulse with a slow, rhythmic beat. She heard faint sounds emanating from within, a discordant tinkling music, like an old music box playing a broken tune, but warped, out of sync. It was unsettling, almost mournful. Then she heard scratching sounds, soft at first, then growing more insistent, like long nails dragging across a rough surface. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but she couldn't tear herself away. She felt a strange pull, a morbid fascination that defied all logic. Driven by an inexplicable urge, she pressed her eye to the narrow gap in the window boards. What she saw sent a shockwave of ice through her veins. An old, withered face, impossibly pale, with eyes that seemed ancient and empty, devoid of any light, stared back at her from the gloom inside. It was there for only a fraction of a second, a fleeting glimpse of something that defied human understanding, before it vanished as quickly as it appeared. The music box tunes seemed to swell slightly, then became silent, replaced by an unnerving quiet. Just as Sarah's mind struggled to process what she had seen, a low, drawn-out creak echoed through the dense fog. The cabin's front door, which had appeared firmly sealed and weathered, slowly began to swing open, revealing a deeper, more profound darkness within. From that void, a shadowy form, vaguely humanoid but indistinct, seemed to expand, its edges blurring into the surrounding mist. It was as if the darkness itself was taking on a physical shape, slowly emerging into the fading light. Sarah screamed, a raw, terrified sound that was quickly swallowed by the fog. She didn't hesitate, didn't think, she simply turned and ran, blindly plunging back into the swirling whiteout. She didn't care about direction, only about putting as much distance as possible between herself and that horrifying cabin. The fog, which had once felt merely disorienting, now seemed to press in on her, clutching at her, its icy tendrils making it impossible to see. Through the pounding in her ears, she thought she heard a faint, distorted laugh following her, a sound that twisted her stomach into knots. Eventually, by some miracle of instinct or sheer luck, she stumbled upon the main road far from where she intended to be. She managed to hitchhike to the nearest town, abandoning her campsite and all her belongings. Sarah never went camping again. She's haunted by the withered face in the window and the chilling thought of what might have fully emerged from the cabin's abyss. Sometimes, in the quiet of her apartment, she still hears the faint, broken melody of that music box tune, a cruel reminder of the nightmare she barely escaped. Our third terrifying tale comes from David, a solo mountaineer who lived for the challenge of conquering remote peaks. He was an experienced climber, an ascetic who thrived on the vast silence and unforgiving beauty of high altitude. His latest expedition took him to a particularly remote section of the Rockies, a range known for its stark, breathtaking, and often deadly landscapes. It was an early morning ascent, the air thin and biting, swirling with fresh snow, and David felt the familiar thrill of pushing his limits in splendid isolation. As he navigated a treacherous ice-covered ridge, the wind howling around him, he clearly heard it. His name, David, it called, carried on the wind, crisp and clear. He paused, surprised. He was miles from any other human, and the idea of an echo seemed improbable given the direction. He dismissed it as a trick of the wind, a momentary auditory hallucination brought on by fatigue and the biting cold. Yet a sliver of unease had been planted. He called out, "Hello." His voice, normally strong and resonant, was immediately answered by an echo. But it wasn't a normal echo. It was distorted, guttural, as if his own words were being mimicked by something with a broken, monstrous throat. It sounded less like a reflection of sound and more like a cruel mockery. This happened several times. Each time he spoke, the distorted echo would reply, each time a little closer, a little more menacing. He began to feel a profound sense of dread, the silence between the echoes suddenly pregnant with menace. Through the swirling snow and the jagged rock formations, he started seeing fleeting shapes. Dark, hunched figures that would appear at the very edge of his vision, only to vanish the instant he tried to focus on them. They were gone before he could properly register them, yet their presence was undeniable, leaving a chill in his heart. It felt like something was playing a psychological game with him, testing his sanity, pushing him to the brink of what he could comprehend. He knew he was truly alone, yet he felt utterly surrounded. The echo became more direct, the sounds less like repetitions and more like a conversation, or rather an attempt at communication. Muffled, indecipherable words would follow his own, growing louder, more coherent. Then, chillingly, he heard a clear phrase, "You're not alone." It was whispered, yet it sliced through the wind's roar, speaking directly into his mind. He froze, every muscle rigid with terror. What was out here? What was toying with him? He reached a particularly narrow ledge, a notorious traverse with a sheer, unforgiving drop hundreds of feet below. As he carefully navigated the icy path, placing one boot precisely in front of the other, he felt it, a distinct, cold push on his back. It wasn't strong enough to send him hurtling into the abyss, but it was undeniable, physical contact. He stumbled, his heart leaping into his throat, nearly losing his balance, but managed to catch himself just in time, his gloved hand scraping against the rock face. He spun around, adrenaline surging, but there was no one there, nothing but the swirling snow and the vast, empty expanse of the mountain. The realization that something unseen had tried to kill him froze him to the bone. David abandoned the climb immediately. All thoughts of glory or achievement vanished, replaced by an overwhelming urge to escape. He descended rapidly, not caring for caution, driven by an almost primal fear. He kept looking over his shoulder, convinced that whatever had pushed him was still there, lurking in the snow and shadow. The wind, which had once seemed to mock him, now seemed to whisper his name, an endless, insidious sound, until he was well below the tree line, where the ancient pines offered a small but welcome reprieve from the crushing isolation of the high peaks. He never returned to mountaineering. The vast, silent beauty of the mountains, once his solace, now held a sinister presence, a memory of an unseen entity that sought his demise. He distrusts his own senses, always wondering if the mountain truly spoke, if something ancient and malevolent dwelt within its icy heart, or if he had encountered something far more personal and terrifying. The cold dread of that push, the feeling of a presence intent on his death, still haunts his dreams, a recurring nightmare of an unseen hand pushing him toward the void. Our fourth chilling story concerns Mark, a lifelong fisherman who knew the local rivers intimately. He had spent countless hours on the Willow Creek River, a winding waterway known for its deep pools and abundant fish. For Mark, fishing was more than a hobby. It was a communion with nature, a quiet meditation. He knew every bend, every ripple, every secret of the river. One late summer evening, as dusk began to settle, casting long shadows across the water, he found himself at a particularly secluded bend, a spot he considered his personal sanctuary. The river, usually a lively chatter of rushing water and rustling leaves, was unnaturally still that evening. The surface of the deepest pool where he cast his line was like glass, reflecting the deepening twilight with eerie precision. An odd, sweet scent, not from any known plant or flower, began to permeate the air, intoxicating and slightly dizzying. A prickle of unease started to crawl up his spine, but he dismissed it as the strange calm before a summer night. Then, he saw it. Beneath the surface of the deepest pool, a pulsating, ethereal blue light. It wasn't a reflection of the sky or any natural phenomenon. It was clearly emanating from within the water itself. It moved slowly with a strange, deliberate intelligence, almost as if searching for something. Mark's rational mind struggled to find an explanation, his eyes widening in disbelief as the light continued its hypnotic dance beneath the water. As he watched, captivated, a beautiful, haunting melody began. It was a woman's voice, wordless, but full of an ancient sorrow and an irresistible allure. It seemed to come from the water itself, a siren song that resonated deep within his soul. Mark felt an overwhelming, undeniable compulsion to approach the water, to wade in, to surrender himself to the source of that enchanting sound. He felt his feet moving forward almost without conscious command, a puppet to the ethereal music. His fishing rod clattered, forgotten, to the ground as he stepped closer to the river's edge. He was at the very brink now, the cold water lapping at his boots. The blue light beneath the surface brightened, revealing a vague, graceful form moving within the depths, barely visible through the shimmering water. It was long, slender, and seemed to possess an unearthly beauty, shrouded in the shifting light. The singing intensified, filling his mind, drowning out all other thoughts, all sense of self-preservation. He felt an overwhelming, undeniable compulsion to embrace the cold embrace of the river, to join whatever entity beckoned from below. He leaned forward, his mind hazy with enchantment, ready to step into the darkness. Just as he was about to surrender, to take that final, fateful step into the unknown, a pale, unnaturally long and slender hand, with fingers that seemed vaguely webbed and tipped with dark nails, rose from the water. It reached slowly, deliberately towards his arm, its skin looking cold, translucent, and disturbingly human. The sight of that hand, so starkly alien and horrifying, shattered the enchantment. A gasp tore from his throat, and he stumbled backward, breaking free from the trance, shaking violently as if woken from a terrible nightmare. The singing abruptly stopped, the blue light vanished, and the river returned to its normal, gentle flow, as if nothing had happened. Mark threw away his fishing gear that night. He never returned to that bend in the river, nor any large body of water, especially at dusk. The melody of the siren song sometimes echoes in his mind, and he feels a cold, empty ache, as if a part of him still yearns for the river, for the mysterious entity that called to him. He knows, with a chilling certainty, that he encountered something ancient, something that feeds on souls, and that he narrowly escaped being dragged into an aquatic abyss, forever bound to the river's silent depths. Our final harrowing story comes from Frank, a grizzled veteran hunter, an expert tracker who prided himself on his self-sufficiency and his intimate knowledge of the wild. For decades, he had roamed the vast, untamed wilderness of northern Maine, a region known for its challenging terrain and its untouched beauty. Early one morning, with a heavy mist clinging to the ancient trees, Frank set out, rifle in hand, seeking game. He felt the familiar thrill of the hunt, the primal connection to the land. But that day, the wilderness had other plans. He soon discovered a set of tracks that were neither animal nor human. They were bipedal, yes, but impossibly large, far too wide, with an odd splayed toe pattern that defied anything he had ever seen in all his years of tracking. What truly unnerved him was their irregularity. They seemed to vanish and reappear, as if the creature could simply step out of existence and back in. A cold dread began to seep into his bones. Then came the smell, an overpowering, fetid odor, like rotting meat mixed with sulfur and something indescribably foul. It was an alien stench, primal and sickening, unlike anything he had ever encountered in the woods. It clung to the air, growing stronger as he cautiously followed the strange tracks. He felt a profound shift, the unsettling realization that he was no longer the hunter. He was unmistakably the hunted. Eyes, unseen, seemed to bore into his back, constant and predatory. The mist itself seemed to swirl with an unnatural intent, distorting shapes, playing tricks on his vision. He started hearing rustling sounds, too loud for a squirrel, too soft for a deer, always just out of sight, always moving parallel to him. He stopped, raising his rifle, scanning the dense foliage, but saw nothing. The silence would return, thick and heavy, only to be broken by a deep, guttural sound, unlike any animal he knew. It was a growl that echoed through the mist, a sound of raw aggression, territorial and menacing, promising violence to any who encroached upon its domain. Through a brief, tantalizing break in the mist, he saw it. A towering, hunched figure, covered in dark, matted fur or hair, moving with unnatural speed, almost blurring between the trees. Its head seemed disproportionately small for its massive body, and its limbs impossibly long, ending in what looked like powerful, clawed hands. It was gone in an instant, a fleeting nightmare that burned itself into his memory. He stood frozen, his heart pounding a frantic drum against his ribs, unable to reconcile what he had just witnessed with anything he knew of the natural world. Frank retreated to his camp, his mind reeling, every instinct screaming at him to get out. He frantically barricaded himself inside his tent, rifle loaded and ready, but he knew it was futile. He heard heavy, deliberate footsteps circling his tent, crushing leaves and twigs. A tearing sound ripped through the silence as something tried to rip open the side of his tent. A growl, ferocious and deep, rupting right outside, so close he could feel the vibrations. He knew it was its prey, and it was toying with him. In a desperate act of self-preservation, Frank fired a warning shot into the air, hoping to scare it off. The growl paused, then resumed with even greater fury. Realizing he was outmatched, he unzipped his tent and bolted, running blindly into the mist, leaving his camp and all his gear behind. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs gave out, until he collapsed from exhaustion, the terrifying growls still echoing in his mind, a promise of what awaited him if he dared to stop. He eventually stumbled upon a logging road, and by sheer luck was picked up by a passing truck. Frank never hunted again. He lives in a small, isolated cabin now, always armed, always looking over his shoulder. The wilderness, once his sanctuary, became his personal hell, a place of unimaginable terror. He knows with absolute certainty that what he encountered was real, a monstrous entity that defies description, and he lives with the chilling conviction that it's still out there, deep in the untouched forests of Maine, waiting for another unfortunate soul to wander too deep into its dark primordial domain. Our first story tonight comes from Sarah, a 20-year-old college student who found solace and community in the vibrant world of online gaming. Sarah was an avid player of a popular fantasy MMORPG, spending countless hours exploring virtual worlds, battling mythical creatures, and forging alliances with players from across the globe. She particularly enjoyed the social aspect of the game, chatting with her guildmates, strategizing for raids, and sharing triumphs in defeats. For Sarah, it was an escape, a place where she could be herself without the pressures of real life. One evening, during a particularly intense raid, she found herself grouped with a player she hadn't encountered before. Their username was NightOwl_Visions. Night Owl was exceptionally skilled, a quiet but effective contributor to the team, and even offered Sarah some rare in-game items after a successful boss fight. Sarah, being polite, sent a quick thank you message, and Night Owl replied with a friendly, seemingly innocuous invitation to add them to her in-game friends list. Thinking nothing of it, as it was a common practice, she accepted. Initially, their interactions were entirely within the game. They'd team up for quests, exchange tips, and occasionally chat about the game's lore. Night Owl was always complimentary, praising Sarah's skills and her friendly demeanor. It was pleasant, if a little intense at times. Night Owl seemed to be online almost constantly, and their messages would pop up at odd hours, often immediately after Sarah logged on. Sarah just chalked it up to them being a hardcore gamer. Then things started to get weird. One day, Sarah mentioned casually in guild chat that she was swamped with an upcoming essay for her English literature class. A few hours later, she received an in-game message from Night Owl. "Good luck with your essay on Shakespeare. Don't forget to cite your sources properly. Professor Davies is strict about that." Sarah froze. She hadn't mentioned her major, her university, or even her professor's name anywhere in the game. A shiver ran down her spine. When she asked Night Owl how they knew, the reply was simply, "Oh, just a lucky guess. Happens to be my favorite author too." The casual tone did nothing to alleviate Sarah's growing unease. The incidents escalated. Sarah had a small, distinctive scar above her left eyebrow from a childhood accident. One day, Night Owl sent her a private message. "Did you know that scar above your left eye makes you look particularly fierce when you're concentrating?" Sarah's blood ran cold. She had never posted a picture of herself online, not even on her private social media accounts that were locked down tighter than Fort Knox. She'd explicitly avoided sharing her face on any gaming platforms. She immediately blocked Night Owl_visions in the game. She felt a surge of panic, a terrifying violation of her personal space. But blocking them didn't stop it. Within hours, she received a friend request from a new username, Midnight Watcher, with a message, "Why did you block me, Sarah? We were having so much fun." This new account also listed her exact university as its location. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. This wasn't a game anymore. She reached out to her guild leader, explaining the situation. To her horror, several other guild members reported receiving strange messages too. Night Owl, or whoever they were, had been asking about Sarah, trying to get information. One member even said Night Owl had messaged them asking about Sarah's favorite coffee shop, mentioning a specific one near her campus. Sarah frequented that coffee shop almost daily. The digital stalking began to manifest physically. Sarah started noticing little things. A car parked down her street that seemed to be there too often, a shadow lingering a little too long behind a bush when she walked her dog. She dismissed them as paranoia at first, but the feeling of being watched was constant, a suffocating weight on her shoulders. She became hypervigilant, constantly checking over her shoulder, jumping at every unexpected sound. One terrifying afternoon, she was walking home from class, engrossed in a podcast. Her phone vibrated. It was a message, not through the game, but an unknown number. The text read, "Nice new blue scarf, Sarah. It really suits you." Sarah looked down at the scarf she was wearing, a gift from her grandmother which she had put on that morning for the first time. She looked up, spinning around, her heart hammering against her ribs. There was no one immediately suspicious, just the usual stream of students and commuters, but the message had been sent mere seconds after she had stepped out of her last building. Someone was watching her, right then, right there. Sarah immediately went to the campus security and then to the police. They took her report, but tracing an anonymous number, especially one that could be a burner phone or routed through a VoIP service, was incredibly difficult. The online game accounts were similarly hard to pin down. The police advised her to limit her online presence, secure all her accounts, and be extremely careful. Sarah dropped out of her guild group, deleted all her social media profiles, changed her phone number, and even switched apartments after a few weeks, despite the financial strain. The constant fear of being watched, of knowing that some unknown person had meticulously pieced together details of her life from seemingly innocuous online interactions, was too much to bear. She never found out who Night Owl Visions or Midnight Watcher truly was, but the chilling experience left an indelible mark, forever changing her perception of online safety and the terrifying reality that the digital world can, and often does, bleed into the physical. It's a truly harrowing thought, isn't it? How easily a seemingly innocent online connection can morph into something sinister. How readily our digital lives can be mined for personal information by those with ill intent. Sarah's story highlights just how vulnerable we can be, even when we think our privacy settings are ironclad. Every piece of information, no matter how small, can be a puzzle piece for a determined stalker. Our next story comes from Liam, a talented freelance graphic designer who used social media as a crucial platform to showcase his portfolio and attract clients. Liam was in his late 20s, passionate about his work, and meticulously curated his online presence to highlight his artistic style and professional achievements. For him, social media was a gallery, a networking tool, and a window into his creative world. He had a modest but engaged following, and he genuinely enjoyed interacting with fellow artists and appreciative fans. One day, he noticed a new follower, an account named ArtLover99. This wasn't unusual, but ArtLover99 quickly stood out. Their comments on his posts were exceptionally enthusiastic, almost gushing, and they were always the first to like new content. Liam appreciated the dedication. It was flattering to have such an ardent admirer. ArtLover99 started sending him direct messages, initially praising specific pieces and asking technical questions about his process. Liam, always happy to engage with his fans, replied cordially. The DMs, however, soon became more personal. ArtLover99 started asking about his daily routine, his inspirations beyond art, and even his favorite coffee shop. Liam, still assuming it was just an overly enthusiastic fan, gave vague but polite answers. He mentioned he liked a specific indie coffee shop downtown, for instance, without thinking much of it. It wasn't exactly private information. Many people knew he went there. Then the subtle shifts began. ArtLover99 would comment on his Instagram stories, not just with generic praise, but with observations that were too specific. For example, Liam posted a story of his dog, Buster, curled up on his studio rug. ArtLover99 messaged, "Buster looks so cozy today, Liam. Did you give him that new chew toy from the pet store on Elm Street?" Liam stared at the message. He had indeed just bought Buster a new toy from that very specific pet store, but he hadn't mentioned it anywhere online. He felt a prickle of unease. One afternoon, while grabbing his usual latte at the indie coffee shop, Liam looked up and saw someone at a table by the window. They were wearing a dark hoodie, face obscured, but their phone was pointed vaguely in his direction. As he left, he glanced back, and the person quickly ducked their head. He brushed it off as coincidence, a lingering shadow of suspicion. But the incidents mounted. Anonymous gifts started arriving at his apartment building's mailroom. Small, quirky art supplies, a rare art book, even a box of his favorite artisanal coffee beans. There was never a return address, just a neatly printed label. Liam felt a growing sense of dread. Who was sending these, and how did they know his address? He had only given it out to a select few clients and close friends. The climax of this creeping digital obsession came one evening. Liam was working late in his studio, listening to a particular lo-fi jazz playlist he often put on when he needed to focus. His phone buzzed with an Instagram DM from ArtLover99. He opened it, bracing himself. The message read, "That lo-fi jazz really helps with concentration, doesn't it, Liam? Buster seems to be enjoying it too, asleep on the blue throw blanket." Liam's heart slammed against his ribs. Buster was indeed asleep, precisely on the blue throw blanket at his feet. The lo-fi jazz was playing softly. Liam was alone in his apartment on the second floor with curtains drawn. He slowly turned his head, scanning the room, every shadow suddenly a potential hiding place. He felt utterly exposed, violated in his own home. He snatched up Buster, pulled him close, and stumbled backwards, fumbling for his phone to call the police. The police arrived, took his report, but again, as with Sarah's story, the digital trail was murky. ArtLover99's account was active but untraceable, likely using VPNs and burner emails. The gifts, while unsettling, weren't overtly threatening enough for immediate action, and the police couldn't prove who had sent them. They advised Liam to enhance his security, both online and in his physical space. Liam was profoundly shaken. The next day, he packed an emergency bag and stayed with a friend for several nights. He ultimately decided to move apartments, changing his entire routine. He deleted his old, meticulously curated social media accounts, starting fresh with new ones under a pseudonym and with stricter privacy settings. He installed security cameras and was far more wary of online interactions. He never found out who ArtLover99 was. or how they had managed to get so close. The digital world, once a source of inspiration and connection, had become a landscape of lurking shadows. It's astonishing how easily admiration can twist into obsession, isn't it? Liam's story is a stark reminder that the digital crumbs we leave behind, the places we tag, the things we talk about, the patterns of our lives can be meticulously collected and weaponized by someone determined to cross the line. The seemingly benign aspects of our online lives can be exploited to construct a terrifyingly accurate picture of our real-world existence, shattering our sense of security. Now, let's move to Chloe's experience. A story about an ex-boyfriend who refused to let go, using the digital realm as his weapon. Chloe, a vibrant and independent woman in her early 30s, had recently ended a tumultuous 6-month relationship with Mark. It had been messy, filled with arguments and emotional manipulation, and Chloe was relieved to finally be free. She blocked Mark on all her social media, her phone and email, determined to cut off all contact and move on. For a few weeks, there was silence. Chloe breathed a sigh of relief, thinking she had successfully navigated the difficult post-breakup phase. But Mark wasn't truly gone. He was simply adapting his tactics. The digital stalking began subtly. Chloe noticed old photos of herself, posted years before she even met Mark, suddenly being liked by anonymous accounts. Then friends of hers would mention strange messages from new profiles asking about Chloe, trying to gauge her mood or what she was doing. They were always vague, always just checking in on her, but the pattern was undeniable. It was Mark, or someone acting on his behalf. Her Instagram stories, usually a casual peek into her day, became a source of anxiety. Mark began creating fake accounts, sometimes even using photos of real people he vaguely knew to view her stories. He'd leave comments on friends' public posts where she was tagged, making passive-aggressive remarks about their past relationship or painting her in a negative light. Chloe tried to report these accounts, but they'd pop up faster than Instagram could take them down. Then things escalated to a terrifying degree. Mark started contacting Chloe's employer. He sent anonymous emails filled with fabricated stories and exaggerated claims about her professionalism and work ethic, clearly attempting to sabotage her career. Chloe's boss, fortunately, knew her well and dismissed the emails as malicious, but the incident left Chloe feeling violated and vulnerable at her workplace, a place she had always considered safe. The psychological toll was immense. Chloe felt constantly watched, even when she was alone. Every notification, every unknown number sent a jolt of fear through her. She changed her passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, and locked down her privacy settings even further. But Mark always seemed one step ahead. One evening, she received an email from an unfamiliar address. It contained a photo. The photo was Chloe, sitting alone in a park reading a book, taken just a few hours earlier. Her heart pounded at her chest. She hadn't seen anyone taking her picture, hadn't noticed Mark or anyone else nearby. The email's subject line read, "Miss me?" The most terrifying discovery came unexpectedly. Her car had been making a strange noise, so she took it to her mechanic. A day later, the mechanic called her, sounding grave. He had found a small, sophisticated GPS tracking device covertly attached to the underside of her car's chassis. It had been there for weeks, meticulously hidden. The realization hit Chloe like a physical blow. Mark wasn't just watching her online, he was tracking her every move in the real world. Every time she had gone out, every place she had visited, he knew. The anonymous photo, the timing of his online messages, it all made horrifying sense. He had been a silent, unseen passenger in her life, a constant predatory presence. Armed with this irrefutable proof, Chloe went to the police. This time, with the physical evidence of the GPS tracker and a clear pattern of digital harassment, they were able to act. A restraining order was issued against Mark, and he was warned that any further contact, digital or physical, would result in immediate arrest. The legal action provided some relief, but the emotional scars ran deep. Chloe underwent extensive therapy to cope with the trauma. She spent months meticulously scrubbing her digital footprint, deleting old accounts, and being extremely guarded about any new online activity. She changed her routines, moved apartments, and invested in personal security. Mark eventually faded from her life, But the memory of his relentless digital pursuit and the chilling discovery of the GPS tracker served as a permanent reminder of how easily the lines between online and offline can blur, and how destructive a determined digital stalker can be. The experience taught her that true freedom from a toxic relationship sometimes means rebuilding your entire life from the ground up, both online and off. Chloe's story really underscores the weaponization of digital tools in personal disputes, especially after a breakup. The emotional and psychological toll of such relentless digital harassment is immense, stripping away a person's sense of safety and privacy even in their own home. It shows how quickly technology can be twisted from a tool of connection into an instrument of control and fear. Our fourth chilling story comes from David, a passionate but often outspoken participant in niche online forums. David, a software engineer in his mid-30s, frequented a particular forum dedicated to vintage computing. He loved the community, the deep discussions, and the shared enthusiasm for obscure hardware and software. He was known on the forum for his strong opinions and his willingness to engage in lively debates, sometimes to a fault. One day, he found himself in a particularly heated argument with an anonymous user whose handle was Shadow Walker. The debate started intellectually about the merits of different operating systems, but Shadow Walker quickly became personal, making veiled insults about David's intelligence and even his character. David, frustrated, responded in kind, perhaps a little too sharply. The forum moderator eventually stepped in, but the exchange left a sour taste. David thought nothing more of it, dismissing Shadow Walker as just another internet troll. But Shadow Walker wasn't done. The threats started subtly within the forum's private messaging system. Messages like, "You might be a big shot on this forum, David, but let's see how you fare in the real world." David reported the messages, but the forum administrators said they couldn't do much without more specific threats, and tracing anonymous users was beyond their capabilities. Then, the threats started to become disturbingly specific. A message from Shadow Walker appeared in David's forum inbox. "I hear your company, Tech Solutions Pro, is working on an interesting new project. Hope you don't let your online antics affect your work, David." David felt a jolt of fear. He had mentioned his company's name in a general way in an old public LinkedIn profile, but his full name and specific project details were private. How did Shadow Walker connect the dots? He started feeling a pervasive sense of unease. He deleted his LinkedIn profile, tightened all his privacy settings, and stopped posting on the forum entirely. But it was too late. One morning, he woke up to find his car tire slashed. There was a crude, handwritten note tucked under his windshield wiper. It read, "Careful where you park, David. Some people don't appreciate your opinions." His stomach dropped. This wasn't just online anymore. This was real. The incidents escalated. He started receiving cryptic, anonymous emails to his personal address, an email he had never linked to his forum account or any public profile. The emails contained snippets of their old forum debate, sometimes with highlighted sections, and always ended with a chilling, non-specific threat. "You won't be so smart when you're looking over your shoulder. Enjoy your morning jog, David. The fresh air is good for the soul." David's morning jog was a private routine he had never shared with anyone, not even close friends. He went to the police, presenting the emails and the forum messages. They advised him to be cautious, but without a clear suspect or more concrete evidence, their hands were tied. The digital breadcrumbs were too scattered, too anonymous. The climax of David's nightmare came one terrifying evening. He returned home from work to find his front door wide open. His heart leapt into his throat. He cautiously entered, finding nothing stolen, nothing overtly disturbed, but on his kitchen counter, precisely positioned in the center, was a printed screenshot of his forum profile, complete with his username and avatar. Scrawled across it, in the same crude handwriting as the note on his car, was his full home address, circled in red. Below it, one chilling word: found. David didn't wait. He immediately called the police, who arrived promptly. They found no signs of forced entry, suggesting whoever had entered his home might have had a key or picked the lock with ease. The realization that Shadow Walker had not only found his address, but had also been inside his home, leaving a message of pure terror, was paralyzing. David was advised to change his locks immediately, and the police increased patrols in his neighborhood. David was utterly traumatized. He put his house up for sale, moved across the state, and completely disappeared from all online forums and social media. He even switched jobs, taking a position that allowed him to work remotely and minimized his public profile. He never learned Shadow Walker's true identity, but the experience shattered his sense of security and trust in the digital world. He realized how much of his life he had inadvertently shared online over the years, and how a determined and malicious individual could piece it all together to create a weaponized dossier against him. David now lives a meticulously private life, constantly aware of his digital footprint, forever haunted by the silent, unseen threat that had invaded his home and his peace of mind. It's chilling to think about how much of our lives we inadvertently share online, isn't it? David's story reminds us that even in seemingly anonymous corners of the internet, a heated argument can transform into a real-world terror, and that the shield of anonymity for one person can become a weapon against another. The concept of personal space has truly been redefined in the digital age, and not always for the better.
Finally, we have Emily's story, a stark reminder that sometimes the most insidious threats come disguised as friendly faces. Emily, a bright and outgoing college freshman, was eager to make new friends and immerse herself in campus life. She was active on social media, sharing glimpses of her classes, her newfound independence, and the general excitement of starting a new chapter. Like many students, her privacy settings were somewhat relaxed, assuming her network was largely composed of friends and acquaintances. One day, she received a friend request on Facebook from a profile named Jessica Miller. Jessica's profile picture was of an attractive young woman, and she had several mutual friends with Emily, mostly people from Emily's hometown. Jessica sent a message, "Hey Emily, I'm pretty sure we have a mutual friend, Sarah T. She told me we should connect. I'm starting at Emily's university next semester. Would love to hear about your experience there." Emily, always open to making new connections and helping out future students, accepted the request and messaged Jessica back. Their online chats were friendly and frequent. Jessica asked a lot of questions about Emily's classes, her favorite professors, her dorm life, her weekend activities, and her part-time job at the campus bookstore. Emily, seeing Jessica as a friendly future classmate, openly shared details, often sending photos of her campus, her study spot in the library, or even a funny selfie from her dorm room. Jessica was always responsive, always eager to hear more, and always seemed to know just the right thing to say. Then the subtle red flags started appearing. One morning, Emily posted a picture of her new haircut on her Instagram story. Within minutes, Jessica messaged her on Facebook. "Love the new haircut, Emily. The layers really suit you. Did you get it done at the salon near the student union?" Emily blinked. She had indeed just gotten her haircut there, but she hadn't tagged the salon or mentioned its location. She brushed it off as a lucky guess. Perhaps Jessica knew the area well. The unsettling incidents escalated. Emily was wearing a specific, somewhat unique vintage band t-shirt to class one day. Later that afternoon, she received a message from Jessica. "Cool t-shirt today, Emily. Never thought you'd be into blank band." Emily felt a cold knot form in her stomach. She hadn't posted anything about her outfit. How could Jessica have known? The climax of this digital invasion came when Jessica sent Emily a photo. It was a clear, zoomed-in picture of Emily, walking alone across the main campus quad, engrossed in her phone, taken from behind a tree. Emily was wearing the exact same clothes she had been wearing just an hour ago. The photo was taken from a distance, but undeniably of her. Jessica's accompanying message read, "Caught you off guard, didn't I? Guess I'm closer than you think." Emily's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a future classmate anymore. This was a stalker, someone who had been watching her, tracking her movements, and meticulously collecting details about her life, all while masquerading as a friendly peer.
She immediately blocked Jessica, reported the account to Facebook, and deleted all her posts, feeling a profound sense of terror and violation. She went straight to campus security and the police. They were gravely concerned. They tried to trace Jessica's account, but it vanished almost immediately after Emily reported it. There were no digital fingerprints, no traceable IP addresses, no real-world connections. The profile picture was a stock photo, and the mutual friends were either fake accounts themselves or real people who had been unknowingly friended by the imposter. Days turned into weeks, and Emily lived in a constant state of paranoia. She changed her dorm room, varied her routes to class, and became extremely guarded, even with her closest friends. The feeling of being watched never truly left her. She would see someone in a hoodie from afar, or a person lingering a little too long, and her heart would pound. One evening, she returned to her new dorm room to find a small, neatly folded piece of paper tucked under her door. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. Written in neat, elegant script were just a few words. "You're always closer than you think, Emily. Just like we talked about, right?" Below the text was a small, hand-drawn sketch of the unique vintage band t-shirt she had worn on that terrifying day. The note was unsigned, but Emily knew exactly who it was from. The use of "just like we talked about" was a direct reference to their online chats, an insidious reminder of how she had unknowingly provided her stalker with the very ammunition they used to terrorize her. The police and campus security investigated again, but without surveillance footage or witnesses, there was little they could do. Emily continued her studies, but her college experience was forever tainted by the constant fear. She never learned who Jessica Miller truly was or why she had targeted her. The experience left her with a deep-seated distrust of online interactions and a permanent sense of vulnerability, a chilling reminder that in the digital age, a friendly face online can easily hide a much darker, more sinister intent. These stories, as terrifying as they are not just meant to scare you. They are stark reminders of the very real dangers that lurk in the online world and how easily our digital lives can become intertwined with real-world threats. From gaming communities to social media, from ex-partners to anonymous forum users, the digital landscape offers countless avenues for those with malicious intent to invade our privacy and instill fear. It's crucial to be vigilant, to think twice before sharing personal details, and to secure your accounts with strong, unique passwords and two-factor authentication. Remember that every piece of information you put online, no matter how small, can be a potential puzzle piece for someone determined to piece together your life. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is. And never hesitate to report suspicious activity to the proper authorities, even if it feels like just a hunch.